Welcome, friend. I am Merritt Onsa, your dream coach and host of the Devoted Dreamers podcast. And I believe God has an unfolding plan for your life, a God-shaped dream just for you. But there are mountains to climb between you and that dream, like fear, comparison, imposter syndrome. And what if I mess this up? Or maybe the next right step is just evading you, or you're constantly feeling overwhelmed or stuck. I promise you are not alone. And that's why I'm here, to bring you stories from sisters in Christ who have been there and have made it out on the other end. Stick around and you'll find a new episode every Wednesday morning and once a month a solo where I will coach you through the stages of following our God-shaped dreams and provide fuel for the fire that's already burning in your heart. If you're ready to find some real traction for your dream instead of sitting on the sidelines, subscribe to the show and then meet me back here every week for transformational tools to help you release the lies so you can freely show up in the world with your gifts, leaning on God in your weaknesses, and serving His kingdom with the dream He's given you. Hey Dreamer, got something a little different for you today. Maybe you noticed it from the description or the title of this episode. I've actually only done this once before on the podcast, and it was episode 104, where I recorded a speaking engagement that I was doing live and then shared it with you here on the podcast. But earlier this month, I was invited to speak again at another MOPS group here in Colorado. That's Mothers of Preschoolers. And this time it was the Boulder group where my friend Genevieve is leading a sweet group of women. And she asked me to come and talk to the mamas of the young kiddos in her group, most of whom are under the age of 5, referring to the kids, not the moms. I understand how that could be confusing. But the guidance Genevieve gave me was to walk into this conversation knowing that a lot of the moms, even if they had a dream at some point in their life in the past, they're really just in survival mode right now with those little ones. So if that's you, if you have young kids at home, or if your dream is on hold right now because of whatever season of life you're in, or where God has you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, this is an episode that I hope and pray speaks some life into this little window of time for you. It may not feel like a little window. I understand that. But as we dig into this, I also want you to know that I treated this a bit like a workshop. There is a section where I'm speaking and then some exercises that I do to help the ladies visualize, reflect, journal. And I'm asking my editor to leave those quiet spaces in the recording in case you want to use that time for yourself. And I think there's just one little window where I ask the audience to speak to one another. We're going to try to edit that one out. But all of that said, if you are in the car, if you're exercising, or if you're not in a place where you can pause, think, pray, reflect, make some notes, and if you want to workshop this one with us, I suggest hitting pause on the episode, go grab another one to listen to, maybe an interview or a different solo episode, until you can find about 30 minutes alone to listen, process, and think about this topic. I also have a handout for you that I will put in the show notes at merrittonsa.com/podcast/219 if you want to grab that as well. Another thing to note on this one, and this was the same in my last episode where I recorded a live speaking engagement, but the audience is going to be answering some questions that I've asked them, and you're not going to be able to hear them very well. I did okay in parts, repeating back some of what was said into my mic, but I want you to know going in that you're likely going to miss a little bit of it, but it's not going to hugely impact you getting something out of this episode. You're also going to hear probably some cooing and maybe even some crying from the babies in the room, and that's just life as a mom of young kids. I do want to shout out to MOPS, if you're not familiar with them, Mothers of Preschoolers, national, maybe even international organization. I'm not positive about that, but they generally gather bi-weekly during kind of the September to May season. They have childcare for preschool-aged children and younger, so it's a great way for moms to kind of get a little bit of a break, to connect with other mamas, to be encouraged in the roles that you serve. I encourage you really to check out MOPS in your area if you're a mom with young kids. I absolutely love being a part of their meeting and talking about how do we find time to dream even in the crazy seasons of life. Okay, here's my talk with MOPS in Boulder. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for the ministry of MOPS. Thank you for the leadership team here at Grace Commons. And thank you for the opportunity for moms to sit and have a minute to be together, to connect with one another, for their kids to play and have fun together. Lord, thank you for what you're doing in our hearts and our minds, in the secret places where we hold our dreams. We may not even acknowledge them yet because our lives are so full of associates and other little busy people. Just kind of taking up our time, taking up our mind space. And so for these moments this morning, Lord, would you give each mama some space? Would you quiet the noise in her mind, any worries or anxieties, anything that was crazy about this morning and getting here? Would you help her let that go? Would you meet us here in this space? Help us connect to one another, connect with ourselves, to help us remember that we don't just have to survive motherhood, that we can thrive in motherhood. Would you help us find space for our dreams? We thank you for your love for us, and we thank you for this ministry. Amen. All right, so I'm old, and I can't, I can see you, and I can see my notes. That's awesome. So my purpose here today, as Genevieve said, I have a podcast and I've been talking to women about their God-shaped dreams for about the last 5 or 6 years. And I think that this was something that was, that I wanted to know more about. So I started my podcast when the big one, who's now 6, when she was like a year and a half. And I feel like I was coming out of the fog a little bit. I was coming to kind of figure out like, oh yeah, there was something to my life before I had this small child that was really taking a lot out of me. And so really the podcast was about like, I just want to see what it is that women are doing with their lives, because I believe that we were made with great purpose and value and worth, and that we have these little ideas of dreams in the back of our minds that we don't always get the chance or have the inspiration or the time or the space to pursue. And so that was the reason that the podcast began. And what I wanted to do here with you today, is this still on? Yes, okay. Is just give you some space to remind you of who you are, who you were before kids, and who you are becoming as a result of your motherhood experience. I really, truly believe that motherhood is holy work. It is down and dirty, and it is on the floor a lot, but it is holy work because we are shaping young minds and young hearts and the next generation who will be the next set of mothers and fathers, and that's so important. And I know some of you are far more experienced at this motherhood journey, and we're so grateful for you surrounding those of us who are newer to it. And I know some of you are just glad to be here, that like all the ducks lined up in a row and you were able to make it today, and maybe your clothes are on right side out, right? The first time I ever spoke at MOPS, I was telling somebody, Genevieve maybe, my baby totally blew out every ounce of everything in the car seat on the way to Golden. And I was like, okay, and I'm the speaker, like please don't shake my hand as I'm walking into the room because it's dirty. But the truth is, for all of us mothers, is that we all had a day one, right? We all had that first day where that baby was in our arms for the first time, and we were like, really? I have no idea what to do with this small being. So, okay, this is the photography picture, well set. This is May of this year. You can see, look at the eyes of the parents. We are so tired. The kids are smiling, which is perfect. I'm glad. But I'm with you, those of you who feel like I have zero capacity to dream. I came to MOPS today to be with my friends and fellow moms, but I have zero capacity to dream. So what's this woman going to tell me that I can do to make space for my dreams? A lot of you in survival mode. I hear you, I experience it, and mom brain is a real thing. I never knew that was a real thing, that you just can't remember. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of that street or the name of my friend or my kid's mom. I don't know. And I saw this thing on Instagram the other day. I so wish I had taken a screenshot because it would have been perfect to share today. But it was, as a mom, you are the last to shower, the last to eat, the last to sleep, the last to do anything of caring for yourself. But you're the first one that they run to with a skin knee or excitement about something that they did well, something that they created. My daughter is like, look at my art. And so it's this beautiful balance of sacrifice and joy that we get in this experience of motherhood. And, I thought about, as a tiny little font, I thought about what gift could I give you all here today. And for me, I think as a mom of littles, what I really felt like I needed was space. Like I needed to not be touched for an hour. And I needed space to have some of my own thoughts and my own creativity. And so I want to remind you again who you are and who you are becoming. Before kids, maybe you did have some dream of something you wanted to do, something you felt passionate about, a group of people or a place that you were really excited to serve in. But now you're like, I just have hope of a moment without changing dirty diapers and wiping spit up and crumbs, right? So I want to give you some time to reflect a little bit, and we're going to do that here with your handouts in a second. But just kind of this reminder of you are on this beautiful motherhood journey that doesn't always feel beautiful, but you are becoming someone new and beautiful each and every day you experience motherhood. And I like to think of big picture motherhood as an experience of creation that you got to be a part of. So whether that is the creation of the baby in your own womb or in the womb of another mama who you adopted your baby from, I don't want to assume anybody's story, but you are part of creation of a new being. And that is why this is holy and beautiful work. And the word that came to me as I was preparing is that it's a unique experience, not unique in the you're the only one doing it, because clearly billions of moms have done this job, but it's unique to you. You're the only one that mothers in the way that you do. And it is your own way of mothering that you are discovering along the way. You didn't show up on that first day with the babe and be like, here's the checklist, I know what to do. You're learning and growing. You're using your creativity, your resilience, your flexibility, your adaptability along the way as you become mother. And when I was probably, Madison, I think, was 4 to 6 months old. She was a really difficult baby. I had a 2-day labor. She cried all the time. And I was in every mommy group on Facebook, every thing that I could come to. She was born at the birth center, so I did all their stuff. And I asked questions constantly. And I Googled everything, why is she doing this? And what do I do? And how do I do it right? And how do I get her to sleep? She never slept all the hours that they say your baby is supposed to sleep. She's 2 years deprived of sleep at this point in her life. And all I wanted was to do it right. I just wanted to do it right for this first baby that I waited so long for. And I realized at one point, I was kind of having this breakdown where friends and parents and in-laws had all this advice for me, and I was seeking it. I asked for it, but it was too much because it didn't all work together. It was well, maybe you should try this for sleep or this for feeding or this for whatever. And the moment that, I don't know if it was something someone said to me or if it was just something God impressed upon my heart, but it was like, you have to stop listening to all the voices. The motherhood journey is in you. You know your kid. You know what they need. And you're the best mom for your child. And I want you to know that even if you make mistakes, because we all will, right? Our mamas who do that incredible job, they made mistakes, and it's totally and perfectly fine, right? We're resilient. They're resilient. They get past it, and they don't remember much from or before 6. So that's the good part. But again, you leave the hospital and you're like, why did the professionals leave me with this thing? I don't know what to do. And you don't know what to do until you do it. And you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you learn. And you figure out the basics from the beginning. You keep your baby clean, you feed your baby, they hopefully sleep, and the rest of it will come. But think about it. Why are you trusted? Why are you trusted by the experts who helped you birth that baby? You're trusted because the baby is yours. The baby is yours, and you are the best mama for that child. It's not a mistake that your kids belong to you. So who has time to dream? This is Madison. She was an early head raiser. So I'm in my pajamas and she's doing her tummy time probably 4 or 6 weeks. So if you're in this stage, I get it. If you have a baby in the room, I get it. It may not be possible right now. Your dream might be a good night's sleep or a trip to the bathroom by yourself. I don't know if you're in this place. I think maybe I might still be in this place, even with a 6 and a 3-year-old, that if somebody offered me a fantastic, amazing date night of my dreams with my husband or a dark hotel room for 24 hours, I might be over here. Anybody? Who else? Yeah, right? Right? Knowing that your child is well cared for, while you're away, but the dark hotel room sounds pretty good. But some of you long for this, right? That there's something in you, maybe just this little tickle of, I've always wanted to, whatever. We'll have time to ponder that in a minute. But something that's your own, something that you can sink your teeth in, that you can wrap your arms around, you can use your gifts for. And I just want to ask, in thinking about, okay, if your dream is maybe a dark hotel room, you don't necessarily have to answer this. But when was the last time you did something that you loved, that was just out of the joy of your own soul? I just want to do this thing. Or considered a spark of an idea that maybe was planted in you years and years and years ago. If it's been 6 months to a year, raise your hand. Since the last time. Okay, there's a couple. That's so good. What about a year to 2 years since you did something just for you that you loved and were passionate about? Longer? Who's longer? Yeah. It's hard, right, when you're a mom and you got these little ones, and I'm here to just remind you that it's possible, even if it's not today. Not sure why that's a tiny font, but this phrase of "I'm just a mom" drives me crazy. And it was before I even had my own kids. I was at a conference full of pastors, ministry leaders, volunteer leaders. We were talking about issues of homelessness and orphans and all the big issues in the world that people feel passionate to care for. And as we sat in the room and each person introduced themselves and talked about why they were here, why they came to Austin, Texas to go to this conference, the women stood up and said, I'm just a mom. Pastor so-and-so introduced themselves prior, and somebody else had some great titles over here. And she would say, I'm just a mom. And it happened again and again and again. And I was sitting there I am not yet a mom, but I know you're not just a mom, that there is creativity and innovation and ambition and resilience within you. And I want to encourage you, like if this is a phrase that comes off your lips, stop, because you're diminishing who God made you and the job that he's given you and the value of this incredible role that you have in motherhood. You were made with a purpose, and God says so in the Bible. It is very clear that you are here for a purpose. You are of great value and worth, and we need you. We need you and your gifts. And you were made uniquely, that there's nobody else in the world that is exactly you, with the exact same gifts and the exact same personality and the exact same dreams. It is so vital that even if it's not today, that you find space to dream. So here's our moment for reflection. Grab your handout and a pen, but I don't want you to actually write anything yet. What I really want you to do is to get comfortable in your seat. And if you do have a baby in your lap, not calling anyone out, there's someone over here, you're going to get to keep your baby in your lap. But if you aren't nursing and you want a free moment of your hands, maybe your mentor mom at your table could hold your baby if you want just some space for yourself. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes when you're comfortable to do so. And we're just going to visualize for a minute. And I want you to establish yourself in your space. I have a Pilates teacher who says, take up space, like be present in the space because you belong in this space. Position your body on your chair, lean into the backrest, take some really deep breaths. If you have the mama hunch over, I want you to roll the shoulders. Like do that a few times while you're taking some breaths. More deep breaths. We can never take enough deep breaths, I think. Just get comfortable right where you are on your seat. And I want you to visualize the most peaceful place you have ever been. Whether that's like a hike in the mountains when you get to that spot where there's no other sounds but the air, or a bird flying above you. Visualize that peaceful place. Kind of bring yourself into that moment. And breathe in deeply and breathe out. And we probably don't have near enough time to actually kind of calm our nervous system enough to actually be in that place mentally. But we're going to keep going. I want you to consider now the most joy-filled experience you've ever had. I think for me, it was like running barefoot on the beach in Mexico a long time ago, where you experienced God's creation, or you experienced the goodness of the body that he gave you, your ability to do hard things, something that just brought you great joy. Now transition to visualizing a time where you felt totally safe and totally yourself, totally who you are from the inside out, who God made you. That might be like this amazing conversation that you had with a friend, or getting to participate in something that you just feel like, I can do this. I can do it with excellence. And the next, let's do another breath. Breathe in and breathe out. I want you to think for a minute about your strengths, the things that you do well, kind of the things that you do without really trying all that hard. Like, what are you naturally good at that you were made for? And breathe in and breathe out. You can open your eyes. And this is why I want your hand out in front of you. I want you to take like 2 minutes to make some notes in box 1, 2, and 3 on your handout. I feel most like myself when what brings me joy, and my strengths. And I'm literally going to give you 2 minutes. Still have 1 more minute. Take a minute and share something with your neighbor that you wrote down. And I'm just going to give you 1 minute to just share a little bit, and we'll have some more discussion afterwards. But tell somebody next to you what you wrote down, either what one of your strengths is, something that brings you joy, or where you feel most like yourself. Okay, I'm going to bring you back just for... Okay, now I would love for somebody who's willing to share with the group. Let's start with, and I have a prize for the first person that volunteers. So, who wants to share one of their strengths? Who's got a strength that they would share with the group? I'm offering this lovely coffee mug. You? Tell me your name again. Dana? Jana, we met at the beginning, right? Okay, what's one of your strengths? Attention to detail. Oh, 100%. Yeah. What is it in the Strengths Finder? I know it's in there. It has to be in there. So Jana said attention to detail. Anybody else got a strength they would be willing to share? Okay, Jana, you want a coffee mug? Who else wants a coffee mug? Yeah.
Finding humor and beauty in any situation.
Oh my gosh, finding humor and beauty in any situation. I probably just put that right in the thing. Yeah. Beautiful. You win a coffee mug too. What else? Who else has some strengths to share? Yeah.
More evident over probably the last 4 months, but
Resilience.
My resilience in really hard situations is like out of this world. And
Yeah.
It's not like I want to be tested. I don't want to be.
No.
But like, I don't know. I guess I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
I think it comes from God.
Yeah, God's built that into you. Okay, so we've got resilience, we've got attention to detail. Oh my goodness, what was the middle one? Oh, finding beauty in... Yes. See, mom brain. Okay, so let's just use those as examples. How does that support or fit into your parenting, your motherhood? Think about what either any of these women said or what strengths you thought of for yourself. What are some ways that those strengths are gifts to you as a mom? Attention to detail. Does that feel hard to translate to parenthood?
It does, because I think I get too critical because I'm looking for the fault, and that's not, your kids, you want to see the positives in your kids.
I am the same way, so I really relate to that. Like, my daughter, my 6-year-old, said to me a couple months ago, "Mom, I think you think that I'm older than I am." Oh, okay. I hear what you're saying. But attention to detail could manifest positively in, like, you might not be as likely to forget the snacks, right? And how important are the snacks? They're pretty important. Yeah. So, I mean, think for yourself too. Like, what are some ways that God might have given me this thing, particularly to me, so that I could use it in my motherhood? Okay, so resilience is, all over the place in motherhood, right? Like, how have you seen that play out for you?
The laundry list.
But yeah. Especially the last 20 months, right? And and you're teaching it to how old are your kids?
Oh, I just have one baby.
One baby, okay. So little. So you're resilient in the challenges of those early months. And you'll be teaching that to your baby as a toddler and a elementary school age. And as an adult, I was reading this book the other day about making work matter. It's not quite published yet, but the author talks about how resilience is going to be one of the most important skills for our children to have in the workforce, because the current only constant in the workforce is change. And it's like, oh, how do I teach resilience to my kids? How hard is that? Like, let them experience difficult things. That hurts my little mama heart, but they need that, right? To grow up and be the strong, adaptable adults we want them to be. Okay, so you who said making them positive. Mm-hmm.
Finding humor and beauty in any situation.
I love how you put that. Finding humor and beauty in any situation. How does that help with motherhood?
I think in two very clear ways. I think it helps me to be present and relaxed and not so stuck in this like need to be perfect. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist.
Sure.
And also modeling positive coping skills for my daughter.
That is huge. Positive coping skills. Okay, so do you feel like you all can do this for yourselves, like to sit and look at the strengths that God's given you and translate that to motherhood, that even if you're not using your strengths right now to pursue a particular dream, that there is something being built up in you and strengthened in you that will be useful from here on out. So it takes us to maybe someday. And your someday might be a month or 5 months from now, or your someday might be 5 years from now, or your someday might not have a definition at this point. There's the whole, like, once the kids go to school. Well, my kid started school in the pandemic, and so she never went to school, and so we homeschool now. So life just might look a little bit different than we all expect. But if you flip to page 2 of your handout, I'm going to give you another 2, maybe 1.5 minutes to think of what is your maybe someday I will. And just the examples on this slide that I used, like maybe you might want to write a book. When I was 25, I really wanted to write a book. I don't really want to right now. Or maybe it's a blog, or maybe you always dreamed of opening a store or a business of some sort, or pursuing some creative work. But write down what it is for you. And as some of you are wrapping that up, is there anyone willing to share? You're not committing. Just put it out into the world and speak life into it. It doesn't have to be now. But I'd love to offer an opportunity for you to give a voice to it. I know Genevieve has one, maybe.
My husband has like 500 one days for me, and I'm like, literally, I'm just trying to survive. But yeah, I mean, my background is I'm a natural chef, and I think there's ideas that brew around that. Like, I love teaching people. I do some recipe development when it's not COVID, and I love to do that. But sometimes, yeah, there are things that like that is very much in the back of my mind where I'm like, my plate is full now, but like maybe something with that realm of food one day.
Yeah, something in the realm of food.
Something in the realm of
I really like your food. You make good food. Anybody else want to put some words around it? Share it? Honestly, there's no commitment. Yes?
Maybe someday we'll take our family to live abroad.
I love that. Do you have an idea?
Pretty close. But it's definitely on our mind coach.
Yeah. Do you have an idea where?
We were very close to moving to Ireland, but really anywhere.
Yeah. Just to experience the world.
I always wanted to do a study abroad, and I never did that in college.
Mm-hmm.
So might as well take a whole family.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what a gift to your kids. I love it. Good job. Do it. Who else?
mine's kind of like probably not ever people, but I would love to like travel the world and deliver babies as well. I love some labor delivery nurse and midwife and just see the world. So that's like way out there, but
Yeah. That's a beautiful dream. And just like how, I mean, childbirth is the same or similar wherever, but the way people experience it and think about it and all the different cultures, that is really cool. So maybe someday. Maybe someday.
I go to grad school.
Oh, what do you want to study? Counseling. Maybe someday. How old are your kids?
You know, my youngest is almost 4, so I'm kind of
My husband is 52 and he just started his counseling program. So it's never too late. Awesome. Anybody else? I don't want to like close the floor before you've had a chance to share, but okay. Well, then we'll move on because the question is always like how, right? How in the world could this actually happen? And this is my tiniest little font of a permission to dream slide. Why it's okay. So I want to just give you permission of why it's okay, and you choose however to apply this to your own stage of life. But one of the reasons it's so okay and great to have dreams is because it helps you remember who you are, that you
kind of get to step outside of that day-to-day role of motherhood. So you get to remember who you are and how you were made, the giftedness that you were given that's uniquely yours. It's also a great opportunity to role model for your kids, as we've talked about, that it's really good for kids to see mom doing this. Today my kids in the car were like, what are we doing? Where are we going? But it's good for them to see that they're not the center of your universe 100%, because the fact is they won't always be. Our job is to put them out into the world, right, so that they can be their own person. And I don't know if any of you think about this, but like there is that day on the horizon where they're like, I'm busy, Mom. I've got other things to do. So that day is coming, whether we like it or not. And I think this opportunity to learn and grow and do hard things, like stepping out of our comfort zone, like there's a reason it's called a comfort zone. It's hard. There may be some pain and difficulty involved. There may be some huge transition that you've got to figure out in order for your maybe someday to come to fruition. And I'm not a neuroscientist, as you might believe, but the neuroscience of getting out of your comfort zone, it rewires your brain, it makes your brain more adaptable, and it builds resilience in you. So it's like a really good thing for your brain health to try things that you've never done before that feel a little bit terrifying. And how do we find space to dream? I want to be really realistic here. And my secret to this is that we do it in baby steps. We don't like get on a plane tomorrow to go to Ireland, it's planned out. We do it in tiny little baby steps along the way. And the first baby step that I would encourage you in is to practice restorative rest. And this was a term that a friend of mine really introduced to me just a couple months ago, kind of towards the middle of summer, where it felt like we were coming out of the pandemic, but we weren't actually. But rest is not just like I'm going to sit and look at social media for 20 minutes, or I might just veg out with Netflix. Like, how many of you actually feel rested after either one of those things, right? And so whatever it is for you that is restorative, that you choose to do this thing that's restorative to you, and then afterwards you feel filled up or more calm or more like rested, even if you haven't slept. For our family this summer, it was just like taking a walk around the block together, maybe engaging with some neighbors, but like think about what restorative rest is for you, how important it is for you as a mom of young kids. And my challenge to you is to find 30 minutes a week minimum. Like if you've not had restorative rest in years, like let's start with just like 15 to 30 minutes a week that's just for you to do something that fills you up inside and that helps you feel rested. That's not an exertion, but that you come back from it and you're like, okay, I'm ready to take on what's next. The second baby step is, like we talked about, your strengths, that you would be able to identify them and engage them now in your parenting and experiment with some things like, well, if I think I'm excellent at managing the finer details of my life, like how can I use that in my parenting? Or how can I teach whatever this strength is to my child in whatever stage of life they're in? But these are like muscles, like we need to work them to remember what they are. So find pick one of your strengths that you can begin to practice in your parenting. Number 3, let go of mom guilt, which is hard if you have that tendency to feel guilty about time away from your children. But the honest truth is that mom guilt serves no one but the lies in your head. It feeds the lies in your head, and it's not good for anybody. It is really great for your kids to know that somebody besides mom can care for them in their needs. It's really great for you, and it's really great for them. And then number 4, like partner with another mom. You've got a room full of moms here. It's super helpful, like if you're a mom of 1 kid, to find another mom of 1 kid, maybe about the same age, and just to like trade off some time. You watch the 2 for a little while, and then that mom comes back and she watches the 2 for a little while. It might be terrifying to think of 2 babies at one time, but twin moms all over the world do it all the time. But begin now this habit of letting others take the reins for you, letting go of control a little bit for a little while, because no one wins if mama is burned out. So I really think some of the best mama hacks are going to come from you guys in the room communicating like what you've figured out along the way. But I've got a few that I'll share with you. And as I'm talking, if you think of something that you've tried that's been successful, I'd love to have you share it with the group. But the areas where we have found some ways to make it possible for me to have a podcast and start a business with 2 small kids at home that I homeschool. My husband said to me at one point, I don't care really what we have for dinner. So if you want to have the same thing every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday. So for a long time, like 12 months, we probably did this. We had spaghetti Mondays, taco Tuesdays, rotisserie chicken Wednesdays, something else Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so what it meant was I walked into the week of grocery shopping and I knew exactly what we were eating for the next 6 to 7 days. And nobody seemed to mind. And I saved money on like buying like, well, that looks interesting. So the same weekly menu, if that's something that would serve you, if you cook. If you don't cook, prepared meals from like Costco, that rotisserie chicken thing is, we still do that at least once a week. And then childcare. I talked about the trading. I did this with another mom here in Boulder for like an entire semester, I think, where she had a meeting she had to be at for 2 hours. And so I would go watch the 2 kids, and then she would come and watch the 2 kids, and I would go to Whole Foods and work for 2 hours. And that was beautiful. And it was this habit of this thing that we do that we knew every week that we had that time for ourselves to do whatever it was we needed to do. The other thing that's been really fun to explore is this idea of a mother's helper. Ideally, it's probably like a 10-year-old who lives in walking distance from your house, who could come for like 60 to 90 minutes once a week. You're in the home, you might nap, take a shower, have some restorative rest, whatever it is. Just somebody to come play with your baby, to play with your kids. We still do this today. There's like 4 adults in our home, and I still have a mother's helper come and just like, go play with my kids in the basement, because I need that and they need it. I talked about like, talking to my husband and asking like, what can you do to help me? There was a season of life before we had 2 kids where I really needed hours to work. And he said, well, I leave for work at 8. And so you choose, like you can get up at whatever time you want. You might have to go to bed earlier. You can get up at whatever time you want and go have those hours in the morning before 8 o'clock. So for about 9 months, I went to Starbucks. I woke up at 5, no makeup, I put on whatever, went to Starbucks, grabbed a cup of coffee, and I sat there from 5:30 to 7:30, 2 mornings a week to get work done. Getting up early did make me go to bed earlier. So, and that worked for a season. We don't do that now, but that worked for a season. The night before prep, like whatever you can do, snacks, lunches, getting everything in bags for kids, like whatever you can do in advance so that you can get to the time that you need in the morning. And then honestly, let go of expectations. Like nobody really cares if there's crumbs on your floor, probably just you. And it is okay to kind of like live in a little bit of disarray for a time. Maybe not for you. Maybe you let go of expectations in another category. Yeah, I wash my hair about once a week now on a good week, and I never straighten it. So I have like the mom bun most days. But figure out like what are the hacks for you and for your family. Anybody have like something they've tried to kind of get some time to yourself that you'd love to share? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where do you do that?
Lifetime.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lifetime Fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I totally forgot about the gym. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's great. Take total advantage of those things. Anybody else have a good one? Yeah.
Asking for what I need.
Yeah.
You touched on this before, but speaking up in an unapologetic way to my partner
Mm-hmm.
and just making these plans and adjusting our daily routine so that I have time to get what I need.
Totally. And I mean, and that can be a gift to your partner too, like to get to build a relationship with the child that, you know, I mean, my husband said to me for a long time, like, I kind of feel like you don't really need me, or the kid doesn't really need me. He would say that to me all the time when the babies were little. Like, I can't feed that child. I'm like, there's a lot you can do that does not involve a breast, you know? So yeah, I love what you said, in an unapologetic way, just speaking, like Tiffany said earlier, like just speaking what you need and asking for it, because they don't know and they can't read our minds. Awesome. Okay. Running out of time here. Those are great ideas. Please share more at your table when you guys talk. But again, my encouragement to you is to write down one idea this week that you can do to get 30 minutes to yourself. Or just 15 if 30 seems like too far of a stretch. Write down one thing that you can try this week and maybe ask somebody at your table to help you with that, to help you make sure that that happens. As a reminder, like I'm here today to remind you of who you were made to be, and who you are becoming as a mom, which is so beautiful. You know, the person you are today is not who you were before you had kids, and the person that you'll be in 10 years is absolutely not who you are today. You are becoming, you're on a journey, and you were made with a purpose. You have incredible value and worth. You were made uniquely you, the best mom for the kids that God gave you. And motherhood is a holy calling. It is beautiful. It is complex, it is challenging, but you've been entrusted with it, and it is okay to still have a dream outside of motherhood, because it will be a gift to yourself and to your family. It isn't wrong to want a little bit more. If you would like more encouragement about pursuing a God-shaped dream, this is my podcast, my Instagram. I have 5 years of episodes of interviews with women and solo episodes on different topics related to this, where you could get some just like faith-focused encouragement of what other women have experienced in the challenge of stepping out of their comfort zone and trying something they've never done before. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, that's basically where I post every time I have a new episode. There's a little bell there. You could just click that to get that notification when it comes. But thank you all for having me today. It's really, I think it was a gift to me and my own motherhood to be here. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me today for something a little bit different from what you're used to around here. Although I am beginning to put a little bit more energy into identifying more speaking opportunities, which I'm incredibly excited about, so maybe there will be more of these. Before I go, I wanted to speak directly to you if you are in the early stages of motherhood. This is also relevant if you're doubting what you have to offer in a crazy season of life, or if your dream feels like it's in a holding pattern right now. And here's what I want you to walk away with: a reminder that God's plan and timing have purpose. Maybe you feel discouraged or disconnected from your dream right now. And as hard as that is, it's okay. Just because it's not today doesn't mean it's not ever. This is just a season. So whatever your situation, stay open to cultivating wonder, curiosity, and creativity. Use your gifts in other ways if you're able to, and ask the Father through the Holy Spirit to help you do all of that. God is so good, and He created you exactly the way He intended to, and He wants to meet you where you are today. I will also take this chance to ask for your support by becoming a patron of the Devoted Dreamers podcast by the end of this calendar year. I haven't talked much about this lately here on the show, but if you have been blessed by the Devoted Dreamers podcast and want to contribute a small amount on a regular basis, giving levels start at $2 a month and go up to $25. Your support goes directly to the monthly expenses of podcast hosting. So my website, hosting the audio files online, editing, Zoom subscription, equipment, all the things that if I didn't have them, this podcast wouldn't exist. And I do want to take a minute to thank a few of my longtime patrons at the higher levels of giving. Thank you, Jane Springer, Cheryl McGrath, and Catherine Herndon. Their support is such a gift. And you too can join the community as well. Just visit patreon.com/Devoted Dreamers podcast. That's patreon.com/Devoted Dreamers podcast. Just select a membership level. You can learn about all the benefits offered to patrons of the show. Thanks again for joining me today. I will see you next week.